Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 658, Thursday, January 10th, 2019. Thank you so much for tuning in. Well, so my first inclination from yesterday's video, which I did about an hour before Trump addressed the nation, my first inclination was, if you saw the video, that Trump would not declare a national emergency, and in fact he didn't, and he didn't even mention it. I said I think what he's most likely going to do is he's probably got a 2 or 3 step plan. He's going to address the nation to make it perfectly clear what the situation is based on the facts. Then he's going to likely use that to try to get Nancy and Chuck to come in for a meeting and find out if he moved them any at all. If he did not, then he's going to go ahead and take this trip down to the border on Thursday, where he'll get a lot of video evidence of him talking to Border Patrol and other people saying, yes, we need this, the barriers, the fence, whatever you want to call it. And then he'll give the Dems a couple, 2 or 3 days to simmer on the burner. And then if probably by Monday, I would say, of next week, if the Democrats have not offered to come his way and give him some wall funding or fence funding or whatever you want to call it, then he's just going to go ahead and declare national emergency and get the funds somewhere else, which have already been appropriated. And I think that that's probably the plan that he was working. So my inclination from yesterday's video was correct, because a lot of people were saying, yeah, he's going to come out, declare national emergency, and say he's got the wall money. I think he's got the wall money. I think he does have it. I think it's right here in his pocket. And he's just trying to find the best way politically to do this. And he also doesn't want to lose Republicans. And he's also got quite a few Republicans, including Lindsey Graham, who don't like the option of declaring a national emergency and getting the money somewhere else. I think they all believe the best thing to do is to use pressure and the facts to force Pelosi and Schumer to cave and give him what he wants. But I think his patience is running out, and I think he's probably told Lindsey Graham and these other Republicans, okay, here's what I'll do. I'll address the nation, I'll give a speech, I'll lay out the facts, then we'll have Nancy and Chuck come over, we'll see if we've moved them. If not, I'll go down to the border, I'll get people down on the border on video saying we need the wall or the fence. We'll apply more pressure over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday. We'll roll out everybody on the Sunday morning talk shows. We'll make our case again, and come Monday, we'll see if the Dems have backed off. If they have not, I'm going for the nuclear option. Declare a national emergency, tell them that I've got the money, I've rounded up the money, and we're going to get on with it. Then he'll reopen the government, sign whatever he has to sign to reopen the government. He'll take credit for that, and then he'll take credit for getting the wall. A big win-win. And I think that that's his strategy. At least that's what it looks like to me, and it's a good strategy. He's already won the PR battle, and this fight was over from the very beginning. As I told you a week or 2 or 3 ago, the overwhelming majority of people know that we need to secure the border. There's no question about that. How we do it, a combination of things, how we do it is the issue. But the Democrats have not done a very good job of laying out their position, because right now they just look like being opposed to any type of border solution, because it's hard for anyone to believe that $5 billion in building some more sections of wall, after we've already built hundreds of miles of section of wall, which both Pelosi and Schumer and other Democrats have been voting for years under previous administrations, that it's impossible for them to make the case that some sort of barrier at the border is not something that you need as part of the overall border strategy, border security strategy. So they had lost this battle from the very beginning. The only issue was who's going to win the PR battle. And I think that Trump won the PR battle. He already had the issue won. And so now I just think it's a matter of bringing it to a conclusion in the way that causes the least amount of political blowback against Republicans, and allows Trump to claim victory on both issues, both reopening the government and getting the wall. And of course he has to do that for his base and for the good of the country. So I think it's Trump has really played his hand very well I think the Democrats have played their hand very poorly. And of course, at least on this whole issue, the Republicans have looked united throughout. There's been like 5 or 6 Republicans who've kind of veered, but almost all of them have fallen in line and stayed firm. But if you look at the Democrat side, they're all over the place. You have Nancy Pelosi and Chuck the Cuck having to come out and say, along with the leadership of the Democratic Party, yeah, we believe in border security as a general rule. But you also have now all those Ocasio, Marty Feldmanized, Cortez Democrats, those 95 far leftist commies that Nancy Pelosi now has to deal with, who all throughout this thing are completely opposed to any type of border security. Really, they want open borders. They don't want any border security. They want us to open the borders to anyone that wants to come in. So the Democrats themselves, they're not together within the party. They're all over the place, everywhere from, yeah, we want border security, not just a wall, to the more radical leftist commies in the party who want no border security whatsoever. They want complete open borders, 100% immigration, and for all illegals, people just to walk into the country, and once they cross the country, they become a U.S. citizen. So the Dems have not really been together at this point, and of course this will not be pointed out by the legacy fake media, but that's essentially what's going on. So anyway, this is exactly what I thought Trump would do. It was my first inclination, and I think that this will be his strategy over the next week. Make the speech, address the nation, give the facts, explain the problem, give the Democrats a chance to respond. They don't. Go down to the border, talk to some border agents, get some video of them saying, we need the wall. Go back and talk to the Democrats, see if that moves them. If it doesn't, then send your people out on Sunday to all the Sunday morning talk shows, once again, to make the argument and give him that third shot. Then Trump will come back on Monday. He'll have one more meeting. Maybe he's there, maybe he sends Pence, finds out if that's moved the Democrats any at all. If not, boom, he uses the nuclear option. I think that's probably the plan. I think it's a good plan, and I think Trump is going to win big on this. Just my opinion. Rosenstein. You all know I'm a huge fan. It's being reported, he's not made an official announcement, but it's being reported that he will be leaving soon. Of course he will. So how he's leaving or why he's leaving, there's a million different people will come out and tell you what's going on with Rosenstein. Here's my off the top of my head. Generally, when you get a new attorney general, they want to appoint their own deputy. Typically, when you have a deputy, an attorney general, or a deputy attorney general, or a solicitor general, because generally all three of them, Noel Francisco will probably be going too. Because when the new attorney general comes in, he wants his own deputy and he wants his own solicitor general. So that's the main reason why Rosenstein would be leaving. But also, Rosenstein's under a lot of heat, and he's under some pressure, obviously, from certain members in the Congress, and he probably wants to get out of town. He's now padded his resume as a deputy attorney general and, for a while, acting attorney general. That will allow him to walk into any law firm in Washington, D.C., and probably get a very high-paying job as a lawyer at some D.C. law firm, maybe a lobbyist or something like that. But Rosenstein has accomplished what he wanted to do personally. He failed on the coup, or at least ways at this point it looks like he failed on the coup. But he certainly got Uncle Bob in there. He's protected Uncle Bob and the evidence that would expose his crimes, Uncle Bob's crimes, and the crimes of the deep state. So he's done a pretty good job for the deep state. He'll be handsomely rewarded. You can bet on that. So I don't see anything here really as there being some major, like a lot of people say, oh, well, Trump's making his move. He's getting rid of Rosenstein. Well, Trump's been speaking very highly of Rosenstein over the last, since they went on that little trip where Rosenstein went with him and probably advised him, Mr. President, you can't release declassify those documents, because if you do, that will be obstruction, and then we'll have to move on obstruction against you. So I don't think that there's any love lost between Rosenstein and Trump. I just think that Trump's had to tolerate Rosenstein, but I don't think he had anything to do with Rosenstein's leaving or forcing him out. I think this is a decision made by Rosenstein because he just wants to get out from underneath the heat. He's accomplished what he needed to do. He was there for 2 years. He's been under fire. It's not unusual for a deputy attorney general or an attorney general to serve 2 years of a presidential administration and then move on. At that point, they've padded their career. They can go out in the private sector and make 100 times as much money. So that's what most of these guys do. That's what being an attorney general or deputy attorney general does for you. It pads your resume and allows you to walk away from that job after 2 years and go cash in. So if it were you and you were Rosenstein, would you stick around and make 175 grand a year, or would you take one of the many offers out there for probably large 7, 8, maybe 8-figure potential income that's just waiting for you the day you walk out the door, and you don't have to worry about having Jordan and Meadows and those guys up your ass 24 hours a day. So I don't see this as being part of any great plan or secret plan or plot or anything like that. I just see this as business as usual in D.C. Rosenstein's going to get out while the getting's good. He's going to make his move, and he's going to go cash in. Simple as that. Doesn't mean he's totally off the hook for his crimes. But at this point, he must feel pretty good about the situation he's leaving. And, of course, he'll be there to protect Mueller until he's gone. And I expect that the day that Barr comes in the door, Rosenstein will go out the door. So it'll be just like, changing shifts. Then Barr will come in and be the gatekeeper of the deep state as Rosenstein exits. That's my take. Trump Jr. will be the very first person targeted by the House Democrats in their witch hunt. If you look at the Democrats' plans for the first 3 months of the new Congress in the House, and you look at what's going on with Uncle Bob the Executioner and everything we're hearing, it looks like there's a very well coordinated, worked out plan and agenda for how to move between now and 2020, how to take Uncle Bob's garbage and how to use that to move it into the Congress so that they can proceed from there. And it looks like the agenda is going to move into the House where they can control things like, getting impeachment. They can launch their own investigations. They can do subpoenas. And you can bet that the House will be dragging Don Jr. And everyone else, probably Kushner and everyone else that they can drag in there, and they'll continue to beat them around for the next 18 months or so, 2 years leading up to the 2020 election. It's not going to end, and they'll continue their investigations of Trump and the whole 9 yards. So it's just moving into a different venue. The game will not change. The ball just goes to another team member. They pass the baton, and it moves on through the typical process in the swamp. How many of you enjoyed the response by Chuck and Nancy? Man, I'll tell you what, within the first 2 minutes, they were already memes all over the place. I mean, they just looked really crazy. Really crazy. I mean, in fact, I was trying to figure out what in the hell's going on. I mean, when they first came on, as cringeworthy as it was, I had to force myself to sit there and listen to it. It was a horrible. First of all, they never really made any type of an argument. It was just a political statement, and they never were able to dispute really any of the facts except for lying. Essentially, the point they were trying to make is there is no crisis at the border, but that's not going to fly. Everyone knows that there's a crisis at the border, and there has been. It's been a crisis type issue for decades, and no one's ever dealt with it. It's been kicked down the road, and now you have a president who wants to deal with it. And so I don't think that they were effective at all. And not only that, I mean, even Democrats, even left-wing media outlets were having some fun picking on Nancy and Chuck. I mean, they're cringeworthy individuals, man. I mean, they look like robots. They look like they were stuffed or something. And the way Schumer almost looked like he was like under duress or something. Nancy just looked, it's the same type of thing you always see with her. She just looks like a deer in the headlights. But, he looked like a guy trying to sell you a reverse mortgage. Pelosi looked like one of those people trying to sell you a timeshare. And just the look on their faces and just their whole delivery, I mean, within like a few seconds, I was wondering if maybe Nancy farted or something, let out a real smelly fart or something. And that's the look that Chuck Schumer had on his face, like Nancy farted. And maybe she did. Maybe Nancy let go of a real bad one and Chuck was forced to stand there and breathe it for several minutes, and that's what looks like was happening to me. Is that Chuck was inhaling some really bad exhaust from Madame Botox's derriere. So that is what it looked like to me. Lindsey Graham sat down with William Barr and had a great conversation with William Barr. And from that conversation, we learned the following. Lindsey Graham says that Barr and Mueller have been best friends for over 20 years. Barr has a high opinion of Mueller and that they worked together for years. They're good personal friends. Their wives attend the same Bible study. Mueller attended 2 of Barr's daughters' weddings. So, yeah, it's just like I said, I have no confidence whatsoever that Barr is going to do anything different than Rosenstein. I just think he's the next torchbearer. The baton will be passed over to Barr. Yeah, he wrote some things critical of the Mueller investigation, and this and that, and he's written about maybe that Hillary needs to be investigated. But I am expecting nothing from William Barr. Nothing. And Lindsey Graham, I don't trust him as far as I can throw him. Lindsey Graham has no choice but to pretend to buddy up to Trump because he knows how popular Trump is. And when you're not buddying up with Trump, you have a tendency to get hammered in your next election, which for Lindsey Graham is 2020. So it shouldn't surprise us that William Barr and Lindsey Graham get along beautifully, and that Barr and Mueller know each other very well. We're close friends, work together, families get together, the whole 9 yards. Graham also said that Barr assured him that he will not tell Mueller what to do or how to do it. So it looks like he'll fit right in, but it's like I've been saying now for months and months and months, that if we're going to get the truth and bring the criminals to justice, it'll only happen if the president forces the issue, and it will require both he and millions of Americans to support him and get involved. Only when the American people and Trump himself force the issue is anything going to happen. These DOJ plants like Barr and Rosenstein and Sessions and all these guys, they are going to protect the deep state because it's the deep state that takes care of them. And you got to wonder who it is that's telling Trump to appoint all these people. Because I don't have a lot of problems with Trump. I love just about everything he does. But one thing I will definitely say is he has done a very, very poor job of who he's put around him, who's appointed around him. Some of that has to do with the fact that these individuals have to be confirmed. But there's other people in positions that don't have to be confirmed. But we know that the people who have been staffed around Trump are his enemies. You know, it's like a thousand Brutuses surrounding him. And we just learned a week ago that when Trump first came into office, the person he looked to give him advice on who he should bring into his cabinet right away was Condoleezza Rice. A true deep state cover-up artist, a true deep state swamp creature, working for the CIA for many years in Afghanistan. She had an oil tanker named after her, part of the deep state. She was warned about many times about all the unusual activities going around prior to 9/11. She never acted on anything. She looked the other way. You can't get any deeper in the swamp than Condoleezza Rice. But what this shows us is that Trump really doesn't pay close attention to politics and party politics, and he really doesn't just pay attention to that stuff. So I think when he came in, he probably thought, okay, well, I want to have good people around me. And so there's people who have a pretty good name and reputation. I'm going to turn to those people, because I think Trump really believed that these people would appreciate him, that they would try to help him, that they would try to work with him, that they were kind of on his team or would be on his team or would support him. I don't think he understands exactly how nasty things are in the deep state, and that's why he would turn to someone like Condoleezza Rice. And it was Condoleezza Rice that made the recommendations that he bring in General Kelly, who hated him, Mattis, who was completely opposed to his foreign policy, McMaster, who was clearly working behind his back, and of course Tillerson. These are all the people that Rice said Trump should bring in. He took her advice, he brought them all in, and they were all backstabbers. And I think the same is probably true with William Barr. He probably someone said, oh, yeah, William Barr would be a great guy to bring in. So now he's going to bring in William Barr. And William Barr is going to be just like Rosenstein or Sessions or anyone else you put in there who comes out of the CIA and the deep state and the DOJ. I don't expect Barr to do a damn thing. Now, if he does, great. But I wouldn't bet a single penny on it. And all these people tell you, well, here's part of the plan. The plan, it's Barr. Barr's the guy. Well, he thought it was Sessions, and now it's not Sessions. Mueller was going to be a white hat. Oh, it looks like maybe not. Rosenstein was turned white. No, maybe not. It's going to be Barr. Forget all that, man. Justice will only be brought to the perps if Trump makes his own move and he's supported by all of us. It's going to take the people and the president. We're the only ones that are going to bring the perps to justice. None of these deep state hacks are going to do a damn thing but cover up and go after Trump. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised. So if you're expecting Barr to come in and put the clamp down on Mueller, forget about it. Not going to happen. Lindsey Graham, of course, was asked, oh, by the way, if you remember about a week ago, I said that, and the reason that Lindsey Graham was saying these things is because he was being asked by reporters. Why? Because just as I told you a week ago, when Barr's confirmation hearings happen, 90% of the questions are going to be about whether he's going to try to rein in Mueller. Is he going to do anything in the Mueller investigation? Is he going to continue to allow Mueller free will to do whatever he wants, whenever he wants, however he wants, wherever he wants? And is he going to investigate the Right Reverend Clinton's emails? Is he going to go after the surveillance, the dossier, the FISA warrants, any of that kind of stuff? This is all the questions he's going to be asked are going to be about these things because they want to pigeonhole him and force him into saying that he's not going to involve himself in any of that. He's not going to affect the Mueller investigation. He's not going to go after the Right Reverend Clinton. He's not going to go after the FISA abuses. He's not going to go after the dossier. None of this stuff. He's not going to do any of that. So one of two things is happening. Either he and Lindsey Graham are working together to try to head that off so that they can say during the hearings that they're not going to do any of that stuff, and then, or that Barr's not going to do any of that stuff, and then when he gets in there, he'll do just the opposite. You see, I don't think that'll happen. I think he's telling the truth. He really isn't going to do anything with Mueller. He really isn't going to investigate the FISA abuse. He really isn't going to do about the dossier. He really isn't going to look into the deep state coup. That's pretty much what I think he believes. And I think that's what he's going to do. So, whether it's political, whether he's answering because he has to give a political answer to cover his butt or whatever, I just don't expect that Barr is going to be any different than Sessions or Rosenstein or any of the rest. I think it's the same guy, different name or whatever, but same player. Now, Lindsey Graham, of course, when he was asked about him personally, now that he's head of the Judiciary Committee, he said that he's going to do a deep dive into FISA abuse. He also says that he thinks Mueller is doing a great job and is being fair to Trump. You can't have it both ways. You can't look at all the FISA abuse, the dossier, and all the things that happened during the 2016, what's still going on, and it's all being run and covered up by Mueller, and at the same time say that you think Mueller's doing a great job. You're going to investigate the perps, but at the same time, you think Mueller's doing a great job. You can't have it both ways. Mueller's part of the plot. He's part of the plot, Lindsey Graham. So what does this tell us? What tells us that Lindsey Graham is only there to play the role. He's going to do exactly what Gowdy and all these other guys do. They're going to put on a great show for us. They're going to lay out a lot of things, but when it actually comes time to connect the dots and assign the crimes to the perps, he's going to wash his hands of it and walk away. He's only looking for some face time to pretend that he's actually going to get tough on this stuff and he's going to hold people accountable. He has no intention on holding anyone accountable. It's all a show. It's a big show. That's what I think. He will not commit. Lindsey Graham will not commit to talking to Rosenstein and calling him in to the Senate Judiciary Committee to ask him about that 25th Amendment thing about wearing the wire. It looks like he won't commit to that. Graham says that he has told Barr that he was going to look into the surveillance abuses and FISA abuse. Yeah, he's told Barr, yeah, you don't have to worry about investigating all this stuff. Don't worry about it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to take care of it in the Senate. I'll bring it up. I'll do the show, and then I'll put it to bed. And I'll cover your butt. And you cover mine. That's the plan. In my opinion. Graham also said when he was asked he's opposed to declaring a national emergency to get the wall funding. Of course he is. Graham, of course, wants to offer amnesty to millions of illegals in exchange for border wall funding. Yeah, you'll get the amnesty and you'll never get the wall. Thanks very much, Lindsay. We appreciate it. Okay, it appears that Weekend at Ruthie's, Ruth Buzzy Ginsburg, is still not around. That's day 3 that she's been absent from the court. I guess she's going to... My guess is that they're just going to let this thing ride. We may not see Ginsburg again. We may not see her again. Very likely. But she won't resign. They'll just let it slide. Because they don't want Trump getting another Supreme Court pick. We'll see how long they can pull off this stunt. Now we have a bunch of New Yorkers who want to rename Fifth Avenue after Barack Hussein Obama. Yes, they want to rename Fifth Avenue after Barack Hussein Obama. Trump Tower is on Fifth Avenue. Well, it appears that the first all-nude restaurant in Paris, France, is going to be closing due to lack of customers. Imagine that. I can't imagine why people wouldn't want to go into a restaurant and have dinner around a bunch of totally naked people. Can you? Whoever came up with such an idea. Hey, I know. Let's open a restaurant where everybody comes in has to be completely nude. We can all sit around totally naked and eat. Ugh. There's some sick folks over there, man. Sick, sick people. What happened to the Europeans? I don't know. Who knows? It's out of control. Joe Biden's brother and others in his family voted for Trump. So yesterday we talked about the fact that Maria Vetselnitskaya has been charged with obstruction. That, as I said, was to keep her out of the country. She's in Russia, and they want to make sure she stays there and stays silent. So what's she going to do as a lawyer? She knows good and well. What is she going to do? She's going to stay silent. She's not going to make a statement unless she has to. And if she does, it won't be her. It'll be a lawyer working for her making a statement. So isn't it odd that here she was not allowed into the country. She was not allowed into the country. But Preet Bharara, the anti-Trump Preet Bharara from the DOJ, moved heaven and earth along with Loretta Lynch to get her a special visa, special permission, so that she could come into town for the Trump frame-up meeting at Trump Tower. She also visited John McCain while she was here, took photos out of his office, and he made a donation to some foundation that she's a part of. So they bring Vetselnitskaya into the country when she wasn't supposed to be here so that she could play her role as the Russian. And then when things don't work out and she might have information that could derail Uncle Bob's attempt to lock his hooks, get his claws into Trump Jr. or blow his narrative, they charge her to make sure she can't come back in the country, to shut her up so that she can't throw a wrench into the spokes. That's how it works in the swamp. If someone that you know, like someone I know, lives in a gated community and they tell you how they're opposed to the wall, kick them in the crotch. There are a lot of people live in gated communities, they're opposed to the wall. Total hypocrites. If you know anyone like that, let them have it. There's a rumor put out there by Pelosi and Schumer that Trump got angry in this meeting on Wednesday and pounded his fist on the table and walked out. According to other people who were in the meeting, that did not happen. And they're suggesting from now on, Trump bring the cameras in to the meeting. And that's exactly what he should do. Next time he has Nancy and Chuck bring the cameras. Because apparently what happened is Trump never got angry and pounded his fist and walked out of the room. Apparently, Nancy Pelosi gave him a bunch of crap about opening the government, at which point Trump said, well, if I sign on to these things and open the government, will you then give me my wall funding? And she said no. And he said goodbye. And he got up and walked out. Antifa is taking credit for the attack on the AFD leader, course, the AfD is the nationalist, populist, center right-wing party in Germany that pulled off an extraordinary feat in the most recent German elections when they had got over brand spanking new party, first time ever in existence. In their very first election, got 13% of the vote, 6 million votes, and now that party is doubled, and some people suggest tripled in size. And so it appears that Antifa is taking credit for this brutal attack on the AfD leader. And the AfD is now actually got a term that they're throwing out there called Dexit. Dexit, meaning Germany may want to exit the EU. When if Germany exits the EU, there is no EU, pretty much. Germany is the EU. Now, like I said in previous videos, 2019 is going to be a very volatile year in Europe, not just because the hard Brexit's most certainly going to happen, but also you do have these nationalist populist parties all over Europe whose numbers are just doubling and tripling all over the place. But keep in mind, you have the European elections for the EU, for the Parliament, the EU Parliament. That comes up in May. And can you imagine if after those elections are over, if we end up with more anti-EU MPs in the European Parliament than we have pro MPs, more pro EU MPs? Wow, I don't think that'll happen. That's be quite a prediction. I think they'll still be in the minority, but they're going to get much better numbers. And Nigel Farage is about, instead of just being the lone guy out there with just a couple other people, he's about to get a lot of support in the EU Parliament, because there's going to be at least 15 or 20 pro-EU MPs replaced with anti-EU MPs who will be taking the side of Farage. So he's going to be getting a lot of help as an MP in the EU, and it just means that there'll be more chaos. There will be a European central bank crisis probably sometime in the summer. This is all going a direction that is it's going to be a turbulent year in the EU. And of course, Merkel's party, the Christian Democrats, were aligned with another kind of center, slightly, I guess you just call them a center party. Also, they kind of go with the Christian Democrats. They're a different party, but they kind of walk in lockstep with the Christian Democrat Party. Now they have actually shifted and become more center-right, and they're leaning more, seeing a lot of their members go to the AfD. So the AfD party in Germany is really rising fast. Their numbers are doubling. Some people say tripling. This is going to certainly change the dynamic after the EU elections for MPs at the European Parliament. That's going to be a major ground shift. So you're going to have the Brexit, which is going to occur in March, which will probably be the hard Brexit. Then you're going to have 2 months later the elections in the EU for the Parliament members in the EU, where you're probably going to see a bunch of anti-EU MPs replacing pro-EU MPs. Then you're going to be having what's culminating to be this European banking crisis for the European Central Bank, because a lot of these loans that they made in these austerity deals in Italy, Greece, and Spain and other countries, a lot of these loan payments are not being met. The European Central Bank is going to have to try to figure out how to deal with that. It's going to be hard for them to issue more loans when the previous loans have not been paid. The European Central Bank is bleeding red ink. Their balance sheets are just ballooning, and there's going to be a European debt crisis with the European Central Bank, how they're going to handle rolling over these loans when it's, a bank generally doesn't roll over your loan when you haven't been making your previous payments on your previous loan. And it's going to be a hard sell. And what are the interest rates going to be? How are they going to justify that? What can they possibly take? They've already taken pretty much everything else. They've confiscated every asset they can confiscate from Greece and Italy in a lot of cases. Spain is right on the door. France is going to be in complete, chaos during this entire period. This is all happening. The yellow vest thing is spreading. It's not going away. It's going to be a very turbulent, topsy-turvy year in Europe, and it's going to be quite a turbulent year here in the U.S. as well, because again, the deep state coup will continue. Mr. Barr is just another guy who will come in and continue. Trump really has no support. It's Trump. He's on his own, and he's got the support of the people like us. And And it's pretty much us against the world in 2019. But we're fighting back. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. See you guys. Have a good night. Goodbye.